Have you ever found yourself in a crowded room, yet felt a hollow emptiness screaming from within? Laughter, conversation, messages exchanged, obligations fulfilled, and still, something remains unreachable. That something is you. Not the you on social media, not the you performing roles at work or with family, but the one who observes in silence, who feels without masks, who thinks without distractions. And here lies the paradox. Solitude, so feared, so avoided, is precisely the space where we truly meet ourselves. Kierkegaard reminds us that the most difficult, painful, and revealing relationship we will ever have is with ourselves. And in the modern world, where everything is noise, connection, and motion, that relationship has become nearly impossible. We've grown so accustomed to fleeing from solitude that we forget it is, in reality, the gateway to authenticity. When we hide from solitude, we hide from ourselves. Consider everyday life. Crowded cafes, screens blinking endlessly, notifications that never stop. Each alert is an invitation to escape from ourselves, each social gathering, each fleeting conversation, a way to fill the empty space within. But what is this emptiness? It's not a flaw, it's not a failure, it's a call to look inward. It's a quiet reminder that true potential lies not in being seen, but in knowing ourselves deeply. And paradoxically, the harder we try to avoid solitude, the emptier we feel. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole. No matter how many external stimuli we pour in, nothing stays. The paradox is cruel, yet liberating. Solitude is not punishment, it is a mirror. In its reflection we see our masks, our fears, and if we have courage, our purest desires. But what does it truly mean to face this solitude? I'm not speaking of imposed isolation or lonely sadness, but of a conscious retreat, even if brief, from the relentless flow of the world. It's sitting with yourself, listening to your own breath, allowing forgotten thoughts to surface. At first, it can be uncomfortable, even painful. After all, solitude is a mirror that does not lie. It reveals flaws, insecurities, and choices we may have avoided confronting. And it's at this point that many give up. They choose distraction, they choose noise, they choose the outside world, with its promise of instant validation. But those who persevere in solitude discover something the world can never give: clarity about themselves. It is in this silence that creativity awakens, courage strengthens, and true potential begins to reveal itself. Imagine solitude as a dark room, one you enter without knowing what you will find. At first, everything feels oppressive, heavy, perhaps even frightening. But slowly your eyes adjust to the dimness. Every shadow becomes form. Every form reveals details that were invisible in the light of daily chaos. And it is in this space that an essential insight emerges. Solitude is not absence. It is presence. Presence of self, presence of who you are, and of who you can become. If modern life teaches us anything, it is that fleeing from solitude has become a social survival rule. But what if true survival isn't found in blending with the endless noise, but in allowing ourselves to hear what echoes within? The paradox is that the more we resist solitude, the farther we drift from our own strength. And the more we embrace it, the closer we come to the potential that has always been waiting, hidden, until silence finally finds us. So the uncomfortable question remains: how much of your life are you truly living, and how much are you merely filling the emptiness with distractions? Solitude is not punishment, it is not a mistake, it is not something to fear. Above all, it is an opportunity, perhaps the only opportunity, to meet yourself, and in that encounter to discover the potential you didn't even know you possessed. And in the next chapter, we will explore how this initially uncomfortable silence can become a gateway to profound insights, creativity, and inner clarity. But to reach it, we must first learn to listen. If the first step of solitude is confronting yourself, the second is learning to listen. And I'm not talking about hearing the sounds around you, but listening to what resonates within. When embraced, silence is not emptiness, it is a portal. A portal to understand fears we've ignored, desires we've suppressed, and possibilities buried by routine. Jung said that those who look outward dream while those who look inward awaken. What he meant was that introspection, the true listening to oneself, is the key to integrating the parts of us we normally ignore. In the modern world, we are constantly distracted, endless feeds, instant messages, endless meetings. Every notification is an attempt to pull us away from our own being. But when we cut through those distractions, even for a few minutes, silence becomes our guide. Imagine your mind as a garden that has gone years without care. The external noise is like stones thrown onto the soil, covering what could bloom. Silence, on the other hand, is the sunlight that allows forgotten seeds to sprout. Within that light, scattered thoughts begin to align, patterns emerge, and connections once invisible become clear. And in this space, we notice something curious. Silence is not passive, it is active. It forces us to face ourselves without distractions, without escape. Repressed feelings surface, ideas once discarded return, and most importantly, a clarity about who we are begins to take shape. It can be uncomfortable, even painful. Some inner truths are heavy, demanding courage to confront. But it is precisely this courage that draws us closer to our true potential. In daily life, few experience the transformative power of silence. It is easy to confuse mere loneliness with productive solitude. An intentional retreat from the world, even a brief one, allows you to see patterns previously unnoticed. Perhaps you realize you spend much of your energy pleasing others or maintaining appearances that do not reflect your authentic self. Or perhaps you discover dormant talents, neglected passions, or creative ideas that only emerge when the mind is not overwhelmed by external noise. And make no mistake, this silence does not have to be long, but it must be deep. A few minutes of mindfulness, meditation, or contemplation can reveal more about you than years of superficial activity. It is in this space that potential meets opportunity. It is in this space that we understand solitude is not punishment, it is a gift. Later we will explore how silence connects directly to creativity and the ability to produce something genuinely our own. But first, we must recognize that resistance to silence is, in truth, resistance to ourselves. Every escape from silence is an escape from what we could discover. Courage untested, intuition ignored, a hidden talent waiting to emerge. So the question that remains is this: are you willing to sit in silence and truly listen to yourself, even if what you find is uncomfortable? The portal is open, but crossing it requires attention and courage. And in doing so, you do more than hear yourself. You discover the fertile ground where your true potential can begin to grow. In the next chapter, we will explore exactly how solitude and silence become catalysts for creativity, not the superficial kind, but the kind that transforms lives, ideas, and perspectives. Because in silence, the inner world awakens, and with it comes the ability to create something only you can create. True creativity does not emerge from noise, haste, or constant external approval. It flourishes in the quiet space, in the solitude that allows us to hear what no one else can, our own mind. Nietzsche said that, without music, life would be a mistake. I would add, without moments of introspection and solitude, our creative life would also be incomplete. For it is in the absence of distractions that thought finds its most authentic melody. Consider modern life. We are constantly fed other people's ideas, opinions we never asked for, and trends that don't feel our own. Every external influence is interference that masks our own creative voice. Solitude, on the other hand, acts as a filter. It forces us to confront our own ideas, question our beliefs, and allow original thoughts to take shape without being distorted by the noise of the world. Artists, writers, scientists, and philosophers have historically understood this truth. Einstein would reflect alone for hours on theories that would change our understanding of the universe. Virginia Woolf wrote in quiet rooms, diving into the intimacy of her own thoughts. And many entrepreneurs today temporarily step away from the constant flow of communication to access insights that transform businesses and lives. There is a pattern. Solitude creates space for the mind to work deeply and originally. But take note, solitude is not an automatic recipe for creativity. It is a necessary condition, not a sufficient one. Courage is required to look inward and let ideas emerge without rush, without judgment. It requires allowing thought to wander, letting the mind explore paths with no immediate destination. Solitude gives us time, but what we do with that time determines whether our creative potential will be revealed or wasted. And here's something fascinating. The creativity born from solitude is not just aesthetic or artistic. It is practical, transformative. It appears as solutions to long-standing problems, more conscious decisions, new ways of seeing relationships and life itself. Every moment of mindful introspection brings us closer to a version of ourselves capable of innovating, creating, and acting in alignment with our true essence. At the same time, solitude teaches us something few recognize. Originality requires rupture. Rupture from imposed patterns, external expectations, and the need for approval. Being alone challenges us to create something true to ourselves, not merely something accepted by the world. And this is where silence becomes powerful. It restores autonomy over our own ideas and forces us to trust ourselves. And if you feel fear or discomfort in the face of creative solitude, remember, discomfort is a sign that something important is emerging. Just as a seed must break through the soil to bloom, your mind must break through the noise of the world to bring forth what is genuinely yours. Solitude then is not empty, it is fertile. Every moment of introspection is like watering an idea that would otherwise remain dormant. But here arises a critical question. How do we balance this creative solitude with social life and the demands of the modern world? How do we maintain productivity and a sense of belonging while allowing ourselves to grow internally? The answer begins to reveal itself when we understand that solitude is not escape, nor punishment. It is a tool. It is the workshop where the mind, in silence, shapes its own potential. In the next chapter, we will explore how solitude not only awakens creativity but also reveals our authenticity and courage. For being creative is valuable, but being authentic is transforming potential into tangible reality, and for that, solitude is often the most demanding and true teacher we will ever have. Solitude does more than awaken creativity, it reveals who we really are. When we are alone, without the masks we wear to please, impress, or protect ourselves, authenticity emerges. And authenticity, in its essence, demands courage. Courage to confront uncomfortable truths, to make choices society may disapprove of, and to live according to what we truly feel. Viktor Frankl, reflecting on the search for meaning even in the most extreme circumstances, reminds us that our deepest freedom lies in the choice of our attitude toward life. And it is precisely in solitude that this freedom reveals itself. When no one is watching, we are confronted with fundamental decisions. Maintain the illusion or embrace the truth about ourselves. Follow the comfortable routine or dare to pursue what resonates within. In the modern world, this courage is rare. Social pressure, a culture of instant validation, and fear of judgment pull us away from our own essence. Many live fragmented lives, dispersing attention and energy across multiple roles, while ignoring the voice that echoes inside them. Solitude, on the other hand, forces us to hear that voice. There are no distractions, no external expectations. There is only you, bare in your own truth. And the authenticity discovered in solitude is not just about knowing our talents or passions. It is about recognizing our contradictions, our shadows, our flaws, and limitations. Jung spoke of integrating the shadow as an essential part of human growth. Being alone confronts us with the aspects of ourselves we often try to hide or deny. And it is precisely this confrontation that demands courage. But here is the crucial point. The courage of solitude is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. It is the realization that living authentically may mean disappointing others, breaking expectations, and navigating unknown territories. And yet, it is in this risk that we discover our strength. Solitude teaches us that true freedom is not in pleasing others, but in honoring ourselves. Examples from modern life are abundant, even if subtle. Consider the person who decides to leave a comfortable career to follow their passion. Consider the artist who creates something radically personal, unconcerned with public acceptance. Consider the individual who, after years of automatic habits, chooses to reflect and reshape their life. They all experienced solitude. They all had to listen to what no one else could hear, their own truth. And this truth holds power. When we live authentically, our actions cease to be mere reactions to external expectations and become expressions of who we truly are. Creativity transforms into contribution, latent potential becomes reality, and courage manifests not only as inner strength but as a transformative force in the world around us. The question that remains is, are you willing to confront your own truth, even if it means stepping temporarily away from social comfort? Because it is in this solitary space, and only in this space, that courage and authenticity meet and strengthen one another. In the next chapter, we will explore how solitude, when truly understood, awakens the deepest inner potential, the kind that grants resilience, purpose, and the ability to shape our lives consciously. For authenticity is only the beginning. True power emerges when solitude becomes inner strength. If until now we have learned that solitude reveals who we are and allows us to hear our own voice, the next step is understanding how it awakens our deepest potential. Silence and introspection do more than illuminate our shadows. They provide fertile ground for the strength, resilience, and clarity of purpose we often search for outside ourselves, unaware that it has always been within. Schopenhauer stated that true strength does not come from external circumstances, but from mastery over oneself. And this is what solitude teaches us: to master the mind, confront fear, acknowledge limitations, and at the same time recognize hidden capacities. When we are alone, we are forced to take full responsibility for our lives, without shifting blame or dependence onto the outside world. This conscious responsibility is the catalyst for real growth. Imagine a young musician, a writer, or an entrepreneur. They may spend years observing trends, copying formulas, seeking validation. But it is when they step away, even briefly, to connect with themselves that they discover unique ideas, forgotten talents, or unexplored paths. Solitude transforms introspection into action, self-knowledge into capability, and latent potential into tangible strength. The modern world tends to push us outward, away from ourselves. The speed of information, the constant barrage of opinions, the need to be seen and accepted. All of this creates an illusion of activity but not of real progress. True personal evolution, the awakening of potential, requires silence, patience, and courage. It demands that we step away, even briefly, from distractions to cultivate something no one can give, something no one can teach: trust in our own mind and our own choices. And this trust does not emerge overnight. It arises from small acts of mindfulness, conscious moments of introspection, decisions made with clarity about who we are and what we want. It comes when we realize that our emotions, thoughts, and actions can be guided by purpose rather than impulse or external pressure. Solitude, then, becomes not just a space for reflection, but an active tool of transformation. There is a powerful and inevitable side effect of this process: resilience. The more time we spend confronting ourselves in silence, the stronger we become. Not because the external world becomes easier, but because we learn to navigate it from a place of inner balance. It is like growing deep roots in solid soil. Storms may come, but the tree stands firm, its strength not dependent on the surface, but on what has been cultivated unseen. And here the final question of this awakening arises: how much of your potential remains unexplored because you have never allowed yourself enough solitude to hear it? Every moment of conscious solitude is an opportunity for growth, transformation, and the discovery of abilities and strengths the world could never teach. In the next chapter, we will explore how to integrate all of this into daily life, how to use solitude to strengthen oneself, maintain authenticity, create and still sustain meaningful relationships and presence in the world. Discovering your own potential is only half the journey. The true art of life is carrying this newly found strength into everyday life without losing yourself. So far, we have explored solitude as a mirror, as a portal, as a catalyst for creativity and authenticity, and finally as a tool for awakening inner potential. But living in isolation is not the goal. The question now becomes: how do we integrate the richness discovered in solitude with the social world around us? Bauman reminds us that we live in a liquid modernity, where everything is ephemeral, fast, and superficial. Connections appear and disappear, relationships are consumed by haste, and attention scatters across thousands of stimuli. In this context, conscious solitude is an act of resistance, not to escape the world but to return to it with clarity, purpose, and inner strength. When we manage to balance introspection with social life, something extraordinary happens. Our interactions cease to be automatic or reactive. They become conscious choices. Every word, every gesture, every connection is guided not by fear of rejection or the need for approval, but by alignment with our essence. Solitude has taught us to listen, reflect, and recognize our truth. Now it allows us to act in the world without losing ourselves in it. And this integration is not linear. There are days when solitude is needed again, to recalibrate, to reconnect with ourselves, to nourish the mind and spirit. On other days, we are ready to engage, contribute, and share what we have discovered. The secret lies in balance, allowing introspection to fuel social life, and letting social life challenge us to deepen introspection even further. This harmony generates visible authenticity. Those around us can sense when we are in touch with our essence. Our relationships become deeper, more genuine. And interestingly, the more comfortable we are with our own company, the more we attract meaningful connections, not out of need but by choice. Solitude, then, is not an eternal refuge, but a continuous tool for self-discovery and strengthening. It teaches us to live fully, not as automatons shaped by the world but as conscious, responsible, and creative beings. Every moment of mindful introspection allows us to return to the world with authenticity, courage, and a presence that does not depend on external approval. And here we arrive at the essential conclusion. The true power of solitude is not in being alone, but in discovering who we are and bringing that discovery into the life around us. It is in silence that we find our potential. It is in conscious action that it is realized. So if there is one thing to take from this journey, it is this. Embrace silence when it presents itself. Allow yourself moments of solitude without guilt, without rush. Listen, observe, feel. Acknowledge your shadows, celebrate your strengths, uncover your capacities. And then return to the world with the clarity of someone who has already found themselves, ready to act, create, and live with authenticity. Because in the end, solitude is not absence, it is presence. Presence of self, presence of who you are, and of who you can become. And it is in this space that the most human paradox resides. The more comfortable you become with yourself, the more capable you are of transforming the world around you. If this video resonated with you, if the silence spoke to a part of you that had been waiting to be heard, consider joining us on this journey. Subscribe to the channel, and together, we will continue exploring the contradictions, the depths, and the hidden potential that make us truly human.